Live from University of Cebu, Banilan. Good morning, Philippines!
Good morning, Cebu City.
I am Ann Pacquiabas,
I am Laurence Setias.
serving you the most hottest and leading news. You are watching P3 Math News. For the headlines, bar graph, the history.
What is its purpose and importance?
How will you make a bar graph?
How can you utilize it in the world of reality?
How can you solve it?
What really is a bar graph? News with details will be shared after a short commercial break. Stay tuned.
Morning, children. Today, we are going to discuss about what is being presented on the whiteboard. Okay, so this is a bar graph, also called a bar chart, which is defined as a chart or graphical representation of data, quantities, or numbers using bars or strings. So a bar graph is used when you wish to compare metric values across several subgroups of your data or display the distribution of your data points. So in other words, it allows us to determine which groupings are most numerous or prevalent, as well as how different groups stack up against one another.
Welcome back, Yusinian. Confused on where the bar graph started? Miss Ella, Miss Michelle, please enlighten our minds.
Good day, Ms. Pacquiabas. A bar graph is a graphical representation of information. As Ms. Almonia said, bar graph was first used by William Playfair in circa 1780 according to many sources. In 1786, he published a commercial and political atlas with a graph of exports and imports of Scotland to and from different parts for 1 year from Christmas 1780 to Christmas 1781, which is in the form of a bar graph. However, there was a Frenchman, namely Nicole Oresme, who used the bar graph in the 14th century publication, namely the latitude of forms. Let us hear Miss Limpios to explain the history of the bar graph further. Miss Limpios?
Yes, Ella. So I am here to explain further the latitude of forms. The latitude of forms was made by Nicole Oresme, a Frenchman who used a bar chart for more than 300 years before Playfair. It is a publication that represents the plot velocity of a constantly accelerating object against time. 20 years before Playfair, in 1765, Joseph Ripley designed a chart of biography to serve as visual study of his lecture on history and general policy. He utilized this bar chart to compare the life lengths of various people, and he also used individual horizontal bars to represent the lifespan of each individual. Although it is more of a timeline chart, a bar chart may also be used to describe it. James R. Beniger and Dorothy L. Robin explained that the first quantitative graphic representation of data that did not situate the data in either location or time, like restless timelines or coordinates and tables, was a bar graph. It provides a straightforward solution to the discrete quantitative comparison problem. Back to you, Ala.
Therefore, even though William Playfair did not invent the bar graph, we must also acknowledge his innovative contribution in advancing and popularizing the concept of graphically representing quantitative data. He is also one of the first people to create a bar graph in recorded history. This is the history of the bar graph. I am Ella Marie Yañez, live from room 409.
Thank you so much, Miss Ella and Miss Michelle.
Bar graph. What is its purpose and importance? Live from 409 is Ann Pacquiabas.
Good morning. Bar graph conveys relational information quickly in a visual manner. According to Korma, teacher and CEO of QMath, that because of bar graph, the comparisons between different variables are easy and convenient. It is the easiest diagram to prepare and does not require too much effort. It is the most widely used method of data representation. Therefore, it is used by various industries. It is also used to compare datasets, for datasets are independent of one another. Lastly, it helps in studying patterns over long periods of time. That is the purpose and its importance. I am Ann Pacquiabas, live from room 409.
Thank you, Miss Ann.
For the procedure, how will you make a bar graph? Reporting live, Miss Maria Ella.
Good day, Yusini. Still confused on how to make a bar graph? Well, I am reporting in real time on how to create a bar graph. The first step is to decide on a topic. Continue researching on the said topic, all the while collecting all the necessary sources and information, which will be then used as your data. Make sure you get information for each category because bar graphs are comparative studies, so you would need to collect all the data you can get. Then, indicate the graph's lowest and highest numbers that should be taken into account. Specify the range of values that should be shown in your bar graph. such as whether it starts at 0 and goes up in 5s to 25. Next, draw the horizontal axis, commonly known as the x-axis, and the vertical axis, generally known as the y-axis. Data presented on the y-axis demonstrates scale, while the x-axis depicts the categories of the data. To accurately label each axis on a graph, you must indicate which variable it represents. This will help the readers understand the many quantities represented by those axes. Also, do not forget to include units of measurement if needed. After that, choose a title for your graph based on the data you have gathered and come up with a label that best represents your graph. Then indicate the start of each bar as you draw it. From the base value to the related frequency, it ought to be expanded. And lastly, after the bar graph is finished, you ought to interpret the data you have obtained. And that's how a bar graph is created. Back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Miss Mariella.
For the sample problems, how can you utilize it in the world of reality? To be reported by Miss Krylov and Miss Heily.
Thank you, Evan. So bar graphs do not only limit their use in the world of mathematics, but also in the real-life world. Bar graphs can be used in a real-world scenario, for instance, the example in the presentation, by comparing the doses of the COVID-19 vaccine for each month of 2022, starting from January to October 2022. Through the utilization of a bar graph with the data of administered doses, one can know the progress of the number of people receiving it, for the goal is herd immunity. So here is the data on vaccines administered each month from January 2022 to October 2022. Table also presents the months with the highest and lowest number of vaccination doses administered to people per month. For the presentation of the bar graph, we have Ms. Heily.
So thank you for that, Ms. Krylov. As you can see, there is a progressive increase in total doses administered to the people, which is depicted in the bar graph. This shows that each month people are still waking up for vaccination against the virus COVID-19. Furthermore, it is clearly shown in the bar graph the difference in the doses administered from December 2021 to October 2022, which depicts a massive increase in data. Also, the bar graph shows if the doses of the vaccine administered are greater or lower than the succeeding or the preceding month. For the calculation, the administered vaccine data presented in this bar graph were distinguished by getting the difference between the succeeding month and the preceding month from the previous table shown by Ms. Krylov. So that's all for our sample problem for this bar graph.
Thank you for that, Miss Krylov and Miss Heily.
For the solution and the answer, how can you solve it? Mr. Rodgen and Mr. Evan are on the line.
So what does this bar chart show? So the bar chart or bar graph that was shown earlier shows the vaccines administered for the months of January 2022 to October 2022.
And question, how many COVID-19 vaccine doses were administered during October 2022? Looking at the graph, it shows that the COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the month of October 2022 reached 1,075,799.
Thirdly, what is the month that has the highest peak of administered COVID-19 vaccine doses for the year 2022? So, according to the graph that was shown earlier, the month that has the highest peak of administered COVID-19 vaccine doses would be the month of January, which has a total of 18,106,138 vaccine doses.
Fourth question, what is the month that has the lowest consumption of COVID-19 doses? So the month that has the lowest consumption of COVID-19 doses in 2022 would be the month of October, since it has the lowest amount of doses than the other month as shown in the graph provided.
Lastly, what is the number of vaccines administered for February 2022? So according to the bar graph or bar chart that was shown earlier, the number of vaccines administered for February 2022 is 8,437,442 vaccine doses.
Thank you, Mr. Rodgen and Mr. Evan.
For the conclusion, what really is a bar graph? Reporting live, Ms. Gemariah.
Thank you, Mr. Evan. To sum it all up, a bar graph is a chart where categories of data are visually represented in the form of either horizontal or vertical bars of varying heights and equal widths. Bar graphs are also especially useful to quickly compare and group different data in different groups. They are also used to track change news over time. For example, you can use a bar graph to monitor the amount of COVID-19 vaccines administered from December 2021 to October 2022. In making a bar graph, you need to do the following things. First off is deciding on a research topic, then categorizing the data you have obtained, and then identifying the range of points for the graph, and last but not the least is to draw the x and y axis to depict the categories and scale of the data respectively, and drawing the bars based on the data you have gathered. Don't forget to choose a title that best represents the contents of the graph. And that is all. Back to you, Mr. Evan.
Thank you, Ms. Gemariah. And that's it for today's news. I am Evan Laurence Setias.
And I am Anne Pacquiabas, live from University of Cebu, Manila.
News that gives hope and transform lives. G3 Math News.